Okay, so today we're going to make a wooden lure. We're going to make one of these guys right here. This is a arbogast jitterbug, very popular topwater bait. Kind of works its way across the water like this and makes a little glug glug sound. And I've caught a lot of fish on these, and I've owned quite a few over the years. And I bought this one fairly recently, and as I took it out of the package and picked it up, I immediately noticed it was about half as heavy as the old ones were. And this bill here is thin, thin, thin aluminum. And the hooks, I could tell immediately, were not very good. I didn't know if it was even going to work right. They're made in China now. And I threw it in the water, and it worked perfectly, and it sounded the same, and everything seemed to be good. Big old bass grabbed it. I got him in the boat. I don't know how, because every hook was flat. I mean, he just pulled the hooks straight. But I managed to get him in. So I took the hooks off and put these mustad hooks on, and it has worked great ever since. But I lost a black one that I had, and I love the black one for night fishing and overcast and stained water. So I decided to make one. So this lure bill is 2 5/8 inches long, 1 7/16 wide, and is 0.024 inches thick. Good heavy duty steel. The hooks I'm using, I would use, this is going to be a 3-inch lure. I would use number 6 hooks. That's what these are. These are mustad double strong, but any number 6 hook will work. The screw eyes are 3/4 inch long, and the stem itself is a 1/2 inch. It's 3/4 inch overall, and these are 0.064 inch in diameter. And the split ring, this is a big split ring, but I would use either number 1 or number 2. I wouldn't go any smaller or bigger than that. And then you're going to need some small mounting screws, which I don't have here, about 3/8 inch long. Again, you can get those at Jan's Netcraft. Now, this has hook holders, which is nice because what it does is it keeps these hooks in place. They can't intertwine with each other. Otherwise, every time you throw this in the water, those hooks will get all intertwined with each other, and then it won't work right. I'm not going to use these on mine because I'm going to make this a little flatter here, and I'm going to put this hook right there, and I don't think they can touch each other. So the next thing you need is some wood. Okay, so we're going to make a jitterbug lure, and I kind of forgot, I haven't made one in a long time, but you can't use regular wood with this. I quite often I get a 48-inch dowel that's 3/4 inches in diameter of poplar, and I can make a lot of lures with it, and I think it cost under $2 for that. Unfortunately, it's not a super buoyant wood. It will float. I've made poppers with it. They've worked great. But the problem with the jitterbug is it's so narrow and it's rounded, comes to a point at each end. It's just not real buoyant. And you put this big heavy lip on it, and what happens is it gets in the water and it does this. And it will sink. It goes 5-6 inches before it will stop. It becomes buoyant down there. But I want this to sit on top of the water. I want to be able to rest it and then reel it in a little ways and then rest it. Sometimes I just do a steady retrieve, and this will work. This will, when you hit it, you can even let it set for a little while and let the ripples smooth off and start reeling it in, and it'll come right back up to the top. It does its action. It makes its glug glug sound, and it works great, but you can't pause it. So I need a lighter wood. So I'm going to go with balsa. Balsa is very easy to carve. You can get your knife, you can carve this stuff up really easy. It's really easy to sand. It's very light, delicate wood. But it has some problems because of that. Another thing is, it is a little more expensive and it's harder to find. You quite often have to buy this in like a hobby shop. So I got a piece of wood that is 36 inches long by about 3/4, and it was $5.50. So it's quite more expensive, but you can make, you know, if you're making 3-inch lures, you can make 12 lures out of it. That's not bad. And a lot of lures I make are around 2.5 to 3 inches long. Very few of my lures are bigger than that. So this will work great for that. The problem with it is it soaks up water big time, so you have to seal it really well. So when I'm done sanding this and have my shape, I will epoxy it, or I use my clear coat stuff here. This is specially made for lures. It's a nice thick clear coating, and you don't have to mix it. It's not an epoxy. But you're going to have to clear coat this with something, and I don't mean like spray paint either. It's got to be something fairly thick, and you have to do 2 to 3 coats easily. I would do 3, and then paint it. And when you've got all your coats of paint on there, put a couple more coats of clear coat on it. The other problem is, it's a very, very soft wood. If you take your screw eye and you screw it in here and you attach a hook and a fish grabs a hold of it, it'll rip it right out, no problem at all. As a matter of fact, what will really happen is you've got this stuck in the front, and this is where your line's tied. It's going to pull right out, and you're going to lose your lure, and that fish is going to swim away with a great big huge lure stuck in its mouth. So we've got to do something about that. This makes it a little bit of a pain. It's not hard, but it takes more time. So what you can do a couple different things. You can do what's called a through wire, and this works great if I was making a popper and I had one hook in the back. This would be really easy. All you got to do is stick a wire right through there, and just drill a little hole through there, stick your wire, tie your loop, have a little loop on the back, tie your hook there, and now the fish can't pull that out. And if he does happen, if say a muskie or pike grabs this and rips it to shreds, the wire's still all intact, and you probably still land the fish. This particular lure, I'm going to have 2 hooks on, so that makes it harder, because now you have to, what you do is you split the lure in half, cut it right in half. You have 2 halves, and you have to carve out a channel to where your wire goes, and your wire is going to be up here to where you tie the line to it. It's going to come along here, and it has to bend down and stick out here in a little V or U shape and come back up, and then it has to do it again if you have a hook here. My hook's going to be in the back, so it would go straight to the back. And then you've got your hook here and here on that wire. You glue your 2 halves together, and you got a pretty rugged lure. However, I've got this big bill that has to go on the front of it, and it has to be screwed in there. So I need to have something that I can screw it into. So what I'm going to do is another technique where you use dowels. So I have a little dowel here, and I will cut it into little pieces, and I will drill holes in here and glue the dowel in there. So I'll have one for my hook, one for my hook in the back, and somehow I got to get one kind of in here at a slant. Oh, well, this will be slanted, and it will be in there so I can get that bill on there. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but it'll work. And the thing with wood glue is it's so strong, it's stronger than wood. So once you've got that glued in there, the fish isn't going to rip that dowel out very easily. And the dowel is made out of harder wood, and your screw will stay in there. So I will start carving, and again, it's very easy to carve this type of wood, very easy. Kids, don't do this without a parent around, okay? And people, be very careful when you're doing this. I don't want anyone getting cut, alright? Okay, so I've got my shape here, sanded it down, used I started with 80 grit, went to I think around 120, then about 220, 330, and then 400. Then I found, I don't know if you can see this very well, but I found where I want my hook, centered it up with the body, and to find where I wanted it, I just basically matched these two together and eyeballed it. And so that's where the hook's going to go. So now we have to make a dowel plug for this. So that's what it is, just a little piece of dowel, and I've got a screw eye in it. What I've done is I've taken a long piece of dowel. This is 5/16 of an inch poplar. You get the center, and then you screw that screw eye in there. It's much easier to do with this long piece of rod than it is with that little tiny short thing when you're done. So I'll screw my screw eye in there, and then I'll cut it. And when you cut it, you want it to go up into the plug a ways, not too far though. You don't want to get too close to the top. And when you cut it, you do have that screw eye in there. So make sure you know how long your screw eye is, and make sure you cut it beyond that so you don't hit it with your saw. I screwed it in tight, and then I backed it off a half a turn or so that I can screw it back on tight. The reason I did that is this is an open, if you can see this on camera, focus, there we go. It's open. That way I can slip a split ring in there, and then you just tighten it up so it's tight against the body, and you can squeeze that together a little bit with pliers if you need to. And it's a little bit easier, I think, to work with, especially with balsa. So now I have to get a drill bit, 5/16, and drill it in there. And you don't want the plug to be sticking out of the body at all. You want it flush. And if you go too deep, you can pull this out flush, but I want the back of this to be glued into the wood as well. So I want it to be pretty exact. So of course you got to take your bit, put this up next to it, and wrap a piece of tape around here so you don't go too deep. Now this is such soft wood that you can literally do it by hand just by turning it and doing it. If you have a little manual drill, that would work good. Of course, an electric drill, just make sure you're going good and straight. I'm going to cheat a little. I have a drill press, so I know it's going to be good and straight, and you can set a drill press up so you can go just as deep as you want to. So that's how I'm going to do this. And that should be it. I think that worked pretty good. Now I got to make another one and put it in the back here. Okay, so now it's time to glue this together. Get a little wood glue and just smear it on here. All the way around on the back. We will stick it in there. Wipe off the excess with a wet cloth, damp cloth. And we need to make sure this is fairly straight. And let it dry. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the end here.